So he holds some pretty high-ranking positions in the government. He will be like an ambassador to Haiti, and he's actually like an ambassador down there, but they got him down there trying to acquire a naval base. Because, you know, this is right at the precipice of the United States now becoming a world influence. So it didn't work out. And then he didn't stay down there. He also ended up in the Dominican Republic as sort of like a ambassador there. What else did he do here? One of his sons, Frederick Jr., was recruiting down in Mississippi during the Civil War, and he was telling his dad, writing his dad, saying, "Look, Dad, if you came down here, you could easily run and be in Congress." Now, I don't think that was Mr. Douglass's aspiration. He also was a bank president, chief editor of a newspaper, and from 1871 to 1895, he would be on the board of directors at Howard University. So he's doing some stuff. Now, he's also active during this Reconstruction period. Reconstruction, had it run its course, our country probably would be looking different. But Reconstruction starts in 1863 or so, while Lincoln is still in office, and it goes till 1877. What happens in 1877? The federal troops that were down in the South enforcing Reconstruction pull out. And the South pretty much will go, with the exception of slavery, at least in the form that we were aware of it, it went right back to being the same way it was prior to the Civil War. And would probably stay that way until the 1960s, 1968. What's interesting is, one of the things that Mr. Douglass starts talking about is prison reform. I find that to be an interesting conversation in 1895. What does the 13th Amendment do? Abolish slavery. Here's what the 13th Amendment essentially reads, and I'm probably paraphrasing it. Slavery or involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime, is abolished. There's still circumstances under which slavery still exists today. That's if you get convicted of a felony. Well, overnight, misdemeanors became felonies. If I left the job on yesterday, was starting a brand new job on tomorrow, but you asked me the day was I working, I said no, I could be arrested for vagrancy. Just hanging out. And they would particularly start to arrest individuals during harvest time. And then these penitentiaries would lease them out to the plantations, to the mines, and they'd pretty much be doing the exact same work they did prior to the Civil War. Now the question is, how long after the Civil War did that go on? 3, 6, 9, 12 years? Let's fast forward 80 years, 1945. World War II is not even over. And they just started charging people for peonage. Me working you 16, 18 hours a day, paying you 23 cents a day. And guess what? There's an argument still goes on, because if you look at what some of those prison inmates are doing, they're doing work that's necessary to our society. Bakery, laundry, roadside stuff, gardening, making license plates, getting paid 20 cents an hour, 20 cents a day. So, you know, Reconstruction is not one of our more glorious periods. And you can look at the numbers, man, because look, here's the deal. The day after the Civil War, 4 million of your workers ain't got to come to work tomorrow. You still got cotton, tobacco, corn in the field. You better find some way to keep them there. And guess what? They came up with some pretty elaborate ways of keeping people in their place. So Mr. Douglass is talking about prison reform. He ends up being a U.S. Marshal. This painting that you see behind me is Mr. Douglass as a U.S. Marshal. Mr. Douglass is on the public speaking circuit. He's speaking at different places. 77 years old, February 20th, 1895. Mr. Douglass is 77 years old. So he spoke at National Council of Women. He was at both the morning and afternoon sessions. Was scheduled to speak at Brown AME Church that evening for their anniversary. Came home, 5 o'clock, had supper with Miss Helen. And standing in this foyer, it's probably around just short of 7 o'clock, suffers a massive heart attack, collapses and dies right here in this foyer. Now we can look at that as the end of the story, right? But I look at it as the end of one chapter going into the next. See, somewhere I read, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it won't bear fruit. But if it falls to the ground and dies, it'll bear fruit. At the time he dies, there are two 20-year-olds coming up. They're not on stage yet, but they will be. One's going to go on to become Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. The other's going to go on to become Dr. Carter G. Woodson. What you see is this torch is passed on from one generation to another. So this story doesn't end, and his story doesn't end. And we've got to continue to pass that torch, because there are periods in our history where we've got great players on the roster, and then there are periods where we don't have great players on the roster. But here's the common denominator. Whether you've got great players or not so great players, you're gonna need new players. Right now, those new players, elementary, junior high, high schoolers, college kids, they come through this door every day. And we teach this story. It's not just this story, so many other stories. Listen, this is not a great story because it's a great black story, not because it's a great American story, it's a great human story. Because anytime somebody perseveres through adversity and wins, guess what? The whole entire team wins. And whether you're the star player or role player, when they start passing out the trophies and the rings, guess what? Everybody gets a ring. The ball boy is going to get, the equipment manager is going to get a ring. And we're hoping that we're passing this ring on to these other people.